There are laws in Wisconsin for how elections are run. A big one: the local clerk runs the show. It turns out that did not happen in the city of Green Bay last year. Instead, emails reveal it was the mayor's office calling the shots. That's because the city got a $1.6 million grant from outside organizations, funded mostly by Facebook and Google. And there were strings attached to that money.
So Center for Tech and Civic Life is a private corporation. And in its grant with the city of Green Bay, it had conditions. And those conditions meant you have to give the money back if you don't meet our conditions.
Even though state law says it's the city clerk in charge of the election, Green Bay's mayor, former state rep Eric Genrich, sidelined her. Genrich put agents from those outside groups in charge. They took leadership roles in collecting absentee ballots, curing those ballots, and one of them even supervised the counting of ballots on election night. The former Brown County clerk saw it all firsthand.
You know, he was advising them on things, he was touching the ballots, he had access to see how the votes were cast.
That particular non-government official even had keys to the central count facility and access to all the machines before election night.
I would really like to think that, you know, when we talk about security of elections, we're talking about more than just the security of the internet. You know, it has to be security of the physical location where you're not giving a third party keys to where you have your election equipment.
According to the county clerk, those agents also decided not to train the poll workers before the election, another violation of state law.
We noted that there was no consistency on how the various tables were processing the absentee ballots. The open ballots were face up so anyone could see how they were marked. Poll workers were also observed reviewing the ballots. You know, typically you might review the ballot just to see that it has the initials of the clerk, but in many cases they were reviewing how they are marked. There was also areas where they were remaking ballots, but you know, the pens they had were the same color as what the ballots were marked, so there's no way to really differentiate what was an elector's mark and what would have been a poll worker's mark.
Now, Green Bay is on the hot seat because its officials kept detailed email records of what happened. But there were 4 other cities in Wisconsin that also took that grant money: Madison, Milwaukee, Racine, and Kenosha.
It's online. The 5 mayors that were involved and 5 city councils are very proud of this achievement, and so it's all in the public domain. This isn't something that, I mean, their response is that, you know, this was a great accomplishment. And my concern is it might be, but you know, you violate the law.
The Wisconsin Voters Alliance initially sued the state after the election over this outside involvement. It hoped to stop the certification, but it now realizes that was not realistic because of a very basic assumption that was made when the laws were written.
I think it's almost impossible in a post-election contest to cover this kind of situation because the public officials have to follow your laws. You can't set up a system assuming public officials are going to violate election laws. I mean, it doesn't work.
The Wisconsin Voters Alliance says lawmakers need to reassert their authority over elections.
There are a lot of times that public entities get in a routine of violating the law. If no one calls them on it, then nothing happens. So here you have something that may become routine, right? Something, you caught it right at the beginning, and we don't want it to become routine. We don't want every city to allow private corporations to come in and influence the election administration process.
And the Voters Alliance warns it won't be easy.
I can't tell you how powerful Center for Tech and Civic Life and these nonprofits are. These are worthy opponents. I mean, you're going to be scrapping against the big tech giants. All these people, they all thought this through. They're willing to spend more than $400 million on it, probably another $400 million on the other private corporations. And so that's what it's talking about. And so what authority do you have? You have authority to make law, but you already made them and they're good laws. You have the authority to investigate what you're doing here. And you know, it's, those old sayings that always come back, like sunshine is the greatest disinfectant, and just don't let them distract you, because This is the key, is who has the authority, who let the private corporations in.
And it seems whatever lawmakers decide to do to fight back, it's already too late for the next several elections.
We're not going to try to change the 2020 election results. We're not even so concerned about 2022, 2024, but we're concerned about is election integrity for this generation and the next generation and so on.
For the McIver Institute, I'm Bill Osmolsky.